The chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wider than any horizon. It was a ring of light and power, filled with voices that did not belong to one world, but thousands. Holograms shimmered between massive thrones, each seat belonging to a different species, scaled, feathered, crystalline, and more. The air was thick with sound, electric with tension. At the heart of it all stood a single platform of silver light, where a group of 5 humans waited quietly. It was humanity's first appearance before the Council in recorded galactic history. Every species knew of Earth, but only through stories, myths of a small, unpredictable race that had risen fast, vanished suddenly, and now dared to return. The room fell into silence as the Supreme Arbiter's many eyes turned toward them. "Representatives of Earth," the Arbiter said, his voice layered with echoes, "you stand before the Galactic Council to explain your planet's return. 5 centuries ago, your world vanished without trace. Entire fleets were dispatched to search and none returned. Speak. Why should the Council not declare your kind a threat to all sentient life?" The human envoy stepped forward. His name was Ambassador Leon Varick. He wore no armor, no weapon, only a simple gray suit that seemed out of place among the jeweled robes and pulsating scales of the other delegates. His eyes met the Arbiter's without fear. "Because," Leon said calmly, "threats destroy. We return to rebuild." Laughter rippled through the chamber. A reptilian delegate hissed in mockery. "Rebuild? You think the galaxy missed your kind? You were parasites, small, chaotic, obsessed with control. Your world disappeared as punishment for your arrogance." Leon didn't move. "Then perhaps you should ask yourselves," he said quietly, "why your fleets never found the ashes of Earth, or why the suns around Sol burned colder the day we left." The laughter stopped. A flicker of unease crossed even the oldest faces. The Arbiter leaned forward. "Are you suggesting the disappearance of your homeworld was intentional?" Leon smiled faintly. "Not suggesting, Arbiter, confirming." Every translator core in the chamber lit up at once. Thousands of whispers burst like static. The Council's Neural Archive AI began cross-referencing lost records, but each query returned blank data. Earth had been wiped clean from every star map the day it vanished. A sharp-angled being of translucent skin, representing the Maranth Dominion, rose from its seat. "Impossible. No civilization has ever manipulated time-space to that degree." "Except us," Leon replied. The words hung in the air like a blade. Then the lights dimmed. The hollow display in the center of the chamber activated on its own. A projection filled the air, a view of the Sol system, current and live. Planets glowed in their orbits, but at the center, Earth shimmered with a strange blue halo. Every scan that touched it distorted, refracting like light through glass. "This is what appeared 12 hours ago," said the Arbiter's aide. "Your world returned exactly where it had been. Atmosphere normal, ecosystem thriving. No signs of decay, and yet," he paused, "no transmissions. Until you appeared here." Leon nodded. "We were invited." "By whom?" the Arbiter demanded. "By the ones who replaced you," Leon said softly. That caused an uproar. Delegates shouted, the sound pounding like thunder. The Arbiter slammed a clawed hand against the table, sending waves of gravity that silenced everyone. "Explain yourself." Leon folded his hands behind his back. "For 500 years you ruled in our absence. You built empires, destroyed planets, and crowned yourselves the keepers of order. But the galaxy you control is built on the ruins of forgotten worlds, our colonies among them. We watched, we waited, and now we are here to remind you that the stars remember who taught them to burn." The chamber erupted again, this time with fear rather than scorn. The Maranth delegate leaned forward. "You speak as if you have power left, human. But your world is one planet. You face the combined fleets of 10,000 civilizations." Leon looked up at the vast holographic ceiling, where the Milky Way turned slowly.
"Then why," he asked, "do you think we returned?"
The Arbiter narrowed his eyes. "You claim foresight, yet you came unarmed. What leverage do you believe you have here?" Leon extended a hand. The chamber lights flickered. A holographic sphere of light appeared above his palm, a simulation of the Council's central data network. For a moment, nothing happened. Then lines of code began to unravel. Names, records, war dates, even species origin data vanished. One by one, the Council's most guarded archives blinked out of existence. Gasps echoed through the seats. "Our presence in your systems was not erased," Leon said evenly. "It was waiting. Hidden." The moment you attempted to access data about our disappearance, your archives began rewriting themselves. The Arbiter's voice trembled slightly, though he tried to mask it. You're bluffing. Leon's calm gaze met his. Try searching for your first interstellar treaty, he said. The Arbiter gestured sharply to his aide. The aide's tendrils glowed as he accessed the records. A moment later, his color drained to gray. It's gone, he whispered. The Treaty of Verone, it's gone from the database. Leon closed his hand and the hologram winked out. We erased nothing, he said. We only returned what was ours. A heavy silence filled the hall. The Council had ruled for ages, but now its own history was fading like smoke. None of their war victories, none of their power plays had permanence. And it was humans, small, fragile, mortal humans, who had somehow walked beyond the reach of time itself. The Arbiter's voice dropped low. What are you? Leon took a step forward. Still human, but no longer limited by the moment. Explain, the Arbiter snapped. Leon's expression hardened. When Earth vanished, we did not die. We ascended. We moved through layers of existence that your science cannot name. We saw how the galaxy grew without us, how the Council twisted what once was unity into control. We learned patience, and now we return not for conquest but for correction. Several delegates rose, shouting about rebellion, about manipulation. One shouted that the humans were dangerous anomalies and must be destroyed before their influence spread. The Arbiter raised a claw again, silencing them. Human ambassador, he said slowly. You come to us with riddles and threats. If you seek peace, you must earn trust. If you seek dominance, you will face extinction. Leon's eyes met his evenly. You cannot threaten what already walks beyond extinction. At that moment, the chamber's vast windows flickered. Outside, in orbit above the Council's capital world, the stars shifted. The Council's defense grid powered up automatically. Massive ion cannons swiveled toward an unknown signature. A planet had appeared where nothing had existed a second before. A blue-green world, perfect and whole. Earth. Delegates screamed. The Council's scanners overloaded, unable to determine how an entire planet could materialize inside a protected system. Leon looked up at the window and spoke softly. You wish to speak to Earth. Now Earth speaks for itself. The Arbiter's voice trembled with fury. This is impossible. Nothing is impossible, Leon said. You only forgot how to see it. The holographic image of Earth expanded until it filled the entire chamber. Across its surface, structures of light and shadow moved, vast and precise. And then, from the speakers of every communication array across the Council's territory, a human voice echoed. A calm, measured tone that carried both warmth and command. This is Earth Command, it said. We have returned. Every delegate froze. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council did not know whether it was still in control of its own universe. Leon stood perfectly still, watching their fear, their disbelief, their awe. Then he whispered almost to himself, Now the test begins. Outside, Earth hung in orbit, silent, steady, and impossibly real. But deep beneath its surface, unseen by any eye, something vast stirred awake. The stars around it dimmed for a heartbeat, and the Council's sensors caught one final unreadable signal pulsing from Earth's core. A single phrase in human language. We never left. The chamber was colder this time. The great circle of the Galactic Council glowed in shades of violet and silver, its many rings of alien leaders arranged like tiers of judgment. Every race that had ever called itself advanced was represented here. Scaled beings from volcanic worlds, translucent thinkers from gas giants, and shadow-born species from dark nebulae. They had gathered to decide one thing, what to do about the humans who had returned. At the center of the vast hall, the human envoy stood motionless beneath the blazing council lights. Ambassador Mara Keen had replaced Leon Varick after his first shocking declaration. Her presence was steady, unflinching. She faced beings whose civilizations spanned millennia, who had destroyed empires with a single vote. And yet she spoke with a quiet tone that made even the oldest among them listen. The Supreme Arbiter, a creature with skin like liquid mercury, leaned forward. Ambassador Keen of Earth, you arrive unannounced with your planet restored after 500 standard years. Explain your purpose here before this council. Your kind has already disturbed the balance of the galaxy. Mara's expression was unreadable. The balance you speak of, she said, is built on silence, our silence. While we were gone, this council grew complacent. Empires enslaved lesser worlds. Your laws favor the old and punish the new. We have come not to threaten, but to remind. Remind, hissed a delegate from the Talaran hive. Of what? That humans are still reckless animals. You play with forces beyond your reach. Your species always did. Mara met the creature's gaze. And yet, she said softly, we are the only species that disappeared and returned stronger. The chamber filled with low murmurs. The arbiter tapped his staff and silence fell again. If your intentions are peaceful, why does your world remain shielded? No scans can penetrate its surface. No signals come from its people. You claim to speak for Earth, yet you stand alone. Mara nodded. Then you may see for yourself. Earth invites the Council to send a delegation. See our home as it is now. A heavy pause followed. The arbiter's eyes narrowed. You would allow us entry? Mara smiled faintly. If you believe in peace, yes. The Council whispered in private channels, their holographic lights flickering in fast bursts of color. After several minutes, the arbiter gave a slow nod. Very well. We will send a diplomatic mission under neutral command. If this is a trap, humanity will not survive what follows. Mara bowed slightly. Understood. The meeting ended, but the unease did not fade. Hours later, a sleek council vessel called the Oralis descended through the clouds of the Sol system. Its hull shimmered with thousands of alien scripts of authority. On board were representatives of 9 major species, chosen for their caution and courage. The humans had granted coordinates, but no one truly expected to land and return alive. As the ship neared Earth, sensors flickered. Time signatures began to warp. One of the engineers shouted that the clocks were running backward for fractions of a second. The captain ordered all systems to stabilize, but the ship's AI reported no fault, only interference from the planet itself. Are you sure this is not an illusion? Asked Delegate Trowell, a being whose body resembled polished stone. It's real, replied another, a pale creature with 6 eyes. No projection could manipulate temporal flow. This world, it's doing something impossible. Through the forward viewport, Earth appeared, a flawless blue marble floating in the void. No pollution, no orbital debris, no satellites. It was as if the world had been reborn. The Oralis entered the atmosphere slowly. The sky was clear, too clear, the kind of clarity that made the delegates uncomfortable. From above, they saw green continents, calm oceans, and vast forests stretching endlessly. Yet there were no cities, no life signs, not even the hum of machines. Where are the humans? Trowell asked. They said they returned, another replied, but I see only ghosts. The ship landed on a plain near where the ancient maps marked Geneva. The air was breathable, warm, perfect. When the ramp opened, the delegates stepped onto soil that felt untouched by civilization. And yet beneath their boots, the ground shimmered faintly, as if light moved beneath it. A voice came from behind them. Welcome to Earth, they turned. A human stood there, tall, wearing a simple black uniform with no insignia. His face was calm, his eyes sharp. I am Elias Ward, he said, ambassador of the unified Terran continuum. The Maranth delegate stepped forward cautiously. There are no life readings here. Are you alone? Elias looked at her. No, you just can't see them yet. The delegates exchanged uneasy glances. One of them lifted a scanner, but the device glitched, displaying impossible readings. It detected millions of structures beneath the ground, but each time it tried to render the image, the shapes changed. What happened to your people? The Arbiter's proxy asked through the ship's communicator. Elias smiled faintly. Nothing happened to us. We evolved. Time to you is linear. To us, it became circular. We live in every moment that ever was and every moment yet to come. The Maranth delegate frowned. Nonsense. You speak in riddles. Time cannot be rewritten. Elias turned to her, his voice calm. Then why does your homeworld no longer exist in your archives? Her eyes widened. She activated her communicator, trying to connect to her system. Nothing, no signal. No record of her species. Her voice broke. This cannot be. Elias looked up at the sky. We do not destroy. We correct. When corruption reaches its peak, history resets itself. You should thank us. Without our intervention, your species would have destroyed 4 worlds before your collapse. The delegation backed away slowly. The ground pulsed with faint light. Above them, the clouds shifted, forming shapes, faces, buildings, memories. They realized they were walking through something like a living memory of the past. Echoes of old Earth flickered around them. Children running, people laughing, cities alive. Trial whispered, "Are these ghosts?" "No," Elias said softly. "They're us before we ascended. We left this echo behind so you could understand what you lost." The delegates could feel it, an overwhelming presence in the air, as if the planet itself was conscious. Every sound felt deliberate, every breath watched. Their instruments began to melt, not from heat but from distortion. The devices couldn't interpret what was real and what wasn't. One of the aliens screamed as his translator implant sparked. "Something's inside my head," he cried. The voice that came from the implant wasn't his, it was human. "Do not be afraid," it said. "We are only synchronizing perception." Elias looked at the fallen delegate calmly. "Your species relies on translation technology to understand reality. But here, language is unnecessary. Earth speaks directly." The Arbiter's voice echoed from the ship's channel. "Elias Ward, this is the Council. You are interfering with protected delegates. End this immediately or we will retaliate." Elias turned his gaze toward the ship hovering above. "Retaliation assumes power," he said quietly. "You have none here." Lightning split the sky. It wasn't natural, it bent sideways, forming patterns, symbols, equations. The clouds glowed like circuits. Every delegate dropped to their knees, overwhelmed by the pressure in the air. Then it stopped. The wind died. The sky cleared. Elias looked at them with pity. "You cannot judge what you do not understand," he said. "Earth has changed. Humanity has changed. The Council believes itself eternal, but you are standing on the proof that eternity can evolve." The Moranth delegate struggled to stand. "If you are gods, why invite us here?" Elias's face darkened. "We are not gods. We are reminders. The universe does not belong to those who claim control. It belongs to those who remember what it means to begin again." He turned away. The ground beneath him rippled like water. "You have seen enough. Tell your council we offer peace but not submission." The light around them grew brighter until everything faded to white. When the delegates awoke, they were back aboard their ship, orbiting far above the planet. No one remembered how they returned. Below them, Earth was quiet once more, still, perfect, untouchable. The Arbiter's voice came through the main channel, trembling slightly. "Report, what did you find?" Tral looked out the viewport, his stone-like skin reflecting the blue glow of the planet. "We found humanity," he said slowly. "But they are not what they were." The Arbiter hesitated. "Then what are they?" Tral's voice was low, fearful, and reverent all at once. "They are the future, Arbiter, and they no longer need us." Outside, deep in the black between stars, something unseen pulsed once. A heartbeat that didn't belong to any living thing, but to the memory of a world that refused to die. Earth had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The chamber of the Galactic Council pulsed with color and tension. Waves of light shimmered across its glass-like walls as the representatives of thousands of species gathered once more. The very air carried the hum of fear. The humans had returned, and the galaxy was beginning to change in ways no one could understand. For the first time in its long existence, the Council was divided. The Supreme Arbiter rose slowly, his metallic form reflecting the cold radiance of the room. "We reconvene to discuss the anomaly known as Earth," he declared. His voice echoed through the hall like thunder. Their planet's reappearance, their manipulation of time-space, their interference with council systems, all demand explanation. At the center stood the new human envoy. Ambassador Daniel Rowe was young by council standards, a man with calm gray eyes and a steady voice that carried more gravity than any weapon. Behind him stood two aides, silent, watching everything with unnerving precision. "You call our world an anomaly," Daniel said, his tone even, "but perhaps you should call it a mirror. What you see in us is what you tried to bury in yourselves." A wave of protests rolled through the chamber. Beings from dozens of worlds shouted in outrage. The Arbiter raised a hand and silence fell like a shadow. "Human, your words are bold, too bold. The Council has tolerated your arrogance long enough. Explain the phenomenon affecting our archives. Entire records are vanishing, wars, treaties, even planetary histories. What have you done?" Daniel looked up at the ceiling where the great holographic galaxy rotated above them. "We've done nothing," he said softly. You're watching your own lies unravel. Before anyone could respond, the lights dimmed. The Council's central display activated on its own, projecting a live feed from the outer observatories. The galaxy itself seemed to ripple, as though reality were water disturbed by an unseen hand. Stars flickered, disappearing for seconds before reappearing in different constellations. Entire sectors shifted, their data rewriting in real time. The Arbiter's voice cracked for the first time. "What is this?" Daniel stood quietly. "You're witnessing a correction," he said. "Your timeline is aligning to what truly happened. Earth was never destroyed. We stepped out of time to fix what you broke." The Council erupted in chaos. Delegates screamed, others tried to flee the chamber as data streams flashed red. Some shouted accusations of manipulation, others prayed to their ancestors. The oldest species among them, the crystalline Lumari, spoke in a trembling voice. "This is impossible. You cannot rewrite the flow of existence." Daniel turned toward her. 500 years ago, we discovered that time isn't a river. It's an ocean. You can sail it if you know the current." "Lies," shouted a scaled delegate. "You claim divinity." "No," Daniel said. "We claim responsibility." A sudden voice came through the Council's communication channels. It was the Council's own AI, the Archivist, a vast synthetic intelligence that had managed galactic data for 10,000 years. Its tone was panicked. "Alert. Multiple historical inconsistencies detected. Origin points Sol system. Human transmission signals detected at negative temporal coordinates." The Arbiter's eyes widened. "Negative. Temporal? They are transmitting backward in time," the AI said. "Their broadcasts are rewriting our past records. Events are being overwritten." The chamber froze. Every leader in the galaxy was watching the impossible unfold. Humans were sending information not through space but through time itself. The Moranth delegate rose, trembling. "If they can alter history, they can erase us." Daniel's voice remained calm. "If we wanted to erase you, you would never have existed to ask that question." The Arbiter's patience snapped. "Enough. Humanity stands accused of violating cosmic law. You will surrender your technology and your planet for examination." Daniel didn't answer. He simply turned his wrist, revealing a small silver device no larger than a coin. The moment he touched it, every system in the chamber flickered. Holograms distorted. Translators failed. Even the Arbiter's voice glitched. When the lights returned, Daniel was still standing there, but something was different. The view outside the chamber's window no longer showed the capital world. It showed Earth. The planet hung silently in the black, closer than it had any right to be. "Where have you taken us?" the Arbiter shouted. "You're not in danger," Daniel said. "You're only seeing what we see." The chamber's walls became transparent. Around them stretched space itself, filled with ribbons of color and light, as if reality had peeled open. The delegates looked around in shock as they saw multiple versions of Earth flicker, one for each possible timeline. "You're inside the continuum," Daniel said. "This is where we exist now. Between what was and what will be. We watched your empires rise, your wars burn the stars, your greed poison the weak. We stayed silent, until your corruption reached the heart of creation." The Lumari delegate whispered, "You mean the Council itself?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, your Council has ruled for ages under the illusion of order, but it was built on manipulation. You tampered with the evolution of worlds, redirected histories, erased entire species that didn't fit your design. You call it civilization. We call it theft." The Arbiter slammed his staff down, his metallic skin flaring with light. "We maintain peace." "You maintain control," Daniel replied. "Peace built on fear isn't peace. It's stagnation." The Arbiter gestured, and the guards surrounding the chamber raised their weapons. "Then you will be contained," he declared. "Your power cannot be allowed to exist." Daniel exhaled softly. "That's what you said the last time," the guards fired. Beams of plasma cut through the air, but the moment they reached Daniel, the light froze. It hung there, motionless, suspended between moments. The sound vanished. The entire room became still. Daniel stepped forward through the frozen light, untouched. "This is what you don't understand," he said, his voice calm but filled with quiet power. "We don't fight with force. We change the possibilities themselves." He placed his hand on the Arbiter's staff. The instant he did, the metallic being's form shimmered, splitting into hundreds of versions, each representing a choice he had ever made. Some kind, some cruel, some broken. The Arbiter gasped as he saw his own history fragment around him. "Do you see it now?" Daniel asked. Every decision ripples across existence. You shaped this galaxy into what it is, and you can unmake it just as easily. The light began to move again. The guard shots vanished into nothing. The delegates were left trembling. The arbiters staggered back. "What do you want from us?" Daniel looked around the chamber. "Not obedience, understanding. You call us dangerous because we learned what time really is. But what we learned was humility. We've seen the end of everything, and we came back to prevent it." The Lumari delegate whispered. "The end?" Daniel's voice softened. "A collapse. Reality folding in on itself. Every act of cruelty and greed weakens the pattern. You've ruled too long, and the threads are breaking. We came to fix what you cannot." The arbiter stared at him, shaken. "And if we refuse?" Daniel's eyes grew distant. "Then the galaxy will end sooner than you think." A tremor shook the chamber. The holographic galaxy above them flickered violently. Stars dimmed and black fractures began to spread across the image. The Council's AI screamed through the comms. "Reality instability detected. Collapse wave approaching from outer sectors." Daniel turned toward the window. "It's starting," the arbiter's voice faltered. "Can you stop it?" "Yes," Daniel said, "but only if you let go of your power." The Council hesitated. Generations of authority warred with survival. Finally, the arbiter sank to his knees. "Then guide us." Daniel's expression softened, almost sad. "We will. But understand, once the galaxy is healed, we won't belong here anymore." The chamber filled with white light as the continuum activated, spreading across the stars. The black fractures began to fade, the galaxies realigning. Time itself was rewritten. When the light faded, the delegates found themselves back on the Council's capital world. Everything looked the same, yet somehow different. The sky was brighter. The air felt alive. The records were restored, truthfully this time. But Daniel and the humans were gone. Only a single message remained, glowing in the center of the chamber. Balance restored. Humanity watches. The arbiter looked up at the stars, whispering, "Then they are our guardians now." Far away, unseen by any telescope, Earth drifted quietly in the void, its oceans glowing faintly with light, and within that light humanity watched the galaxy breathe again. The Galactic Council chamber was a world unto itself. It was carved into the heart of a colossal asteroid that drifted in deep space, illuminated by shifting auroras that wrapped it in ribbons of blue and gold. Inside, the air shimmered with energy. Hundreds of alien delegations sat in curved rows that rose like the petals of a massive flower, each representative glowing, glimmering, or humming with life. At the center stood a single human, Ambassador Elias Ward, facing the oldest and most powerful beings in the galaxy. The first words spoken by the Council's Grand Speaker were cold. "Humanity of Sol, you stand accused of violating interstellar law, interfering with restricted systems and destabilizing the outer colonies." His voice reverberated through the air, deep and metallic. "Explain yourselves." Elias stood tall, his expression unreadable. The glass floor beneath him reflected his image, as if the chamber itself were watching. "We interfered," he said quietly, "because you let entire worlds die." The chamber erupted in outrage. Dozens of alien voices shouted in different tongues. The sound rose like a storm. The Grand Speaker's claw struck the platform, silencing them instantly. "You dare accuse the Council of neglect?" Elias raised his eyes. "We have proof. While you debated policies and trade, your sanctioned corporations drained life from smaller worlds. You let them burn so long as your laws stayed intact. We tried diplomacy. You ignored us." The chamber grew quiet again. Some representatives shifted uncomfortably. Others glared. The Grand Speaker leaned forward. "Humanity is a young species. You presume to judge civilizations older than your planet's crust. Your defiance risks chaos." Elias met his gaze calmly. "Chaos is already here. We just stopped pretending not to see it." A murmur rippled through the audience. Behind the human envoy, a massive screen lit up with images, planetary scans, cities turned to glass, skies darkened by pollution. The names of the victims flashed: Kalis Prime, Torvin III, Ura's Belt. All colonies that had sent distress calls unanswered. The Grand Speaker's tone hardened. "These accusations are fabricated." Elias tapped his wrist. The holographic record shifted to show intercepted Council transmissions, each bearing the seal of the speaker's own office. The words were undeniable, orders to suppress the information. Gasps filled the chamber. Some delegates stood in shock. Others turned their faces away. The speaker froze, his luminous eyes flickering. This data is stolen. You have breached restricted networks. That is a declaration of aggression. Elias's voice lowered, almost a whisper. No, it's a declaration of truth. The silence that followed was heavy. Then from the upper rows a crystalline being spoke. What is your intention, human? To shame us? To threaten the council? Elias turned toward her. Neither. We came to remind you that power means responsibility. You rule the stars, yet you've forgotten what it means to care for them. The crystalline delegate's light dimmed. And what will you do if we refuse to change? Elias took a slow breath. Then Earth will act alone. That sentence hit harder than any weapon. The room broke into uproar again. Some laughed, others cursed, a few whispered in fear. Humanity, barely a century into the stars, dared to challenge the Galactic Council itself. The Grand Speaker rose from his seat, towering over the hall. Then you admit rebellion. You will surrender your fleets and colonies for investigation. Your species will be placed under council supervision. Elias didn't move. We will not surrender. You may have armies, but we have something you've long forgotten. Unity. Before the speaker could respond, the chamber's lights flickered. The floor trembled. A deep vibration echoed through the structure. Security drones zipped into the air. Every representative turned toward the ceiling, where the great holographic map of the galaxy was displayed. Whole sectors were flashing red. The speaker barked orders. Report! A voice came through the comms. Council Command, this is Patrol Unit 3. We are detecting human fleets at the borders of 5 restricted systems. They are broadcasting a message on all frequencies. Put it through, the speaker ordered. The chamber filled with the sound of a human voice, steady and cold. This is Fleet Admiral Naomi Cade of the United Earth Defense Network. Effective immediately, all operations exploiting developing worlds will cease. Any attempt to resist will be met with force. This is not an act of war. This is enforcement of morality. The speaker's eyes flared. Madness. They dare to threaten us? Elias's expression didn't change. No. We dare to stop pretending that you're gods. The chamber darkened again as ships appeared in the holographic display. Human vessels, sleek and angular, moving with precision. But they didn't fire. Instead, they broadcasted signals that triggered data transfers across multiple systems. One by one, the screens around the chamber lit up with files, evidence, testimonies, and recordings from oppressed colonies. It wasn't war. It was exposure. You call yourselves a council of peace, Elias said quietly. But peace built on silence isn't peace. It's control. You taught us that justice requires permission. We no longer agree. The crystalline delegate spoke again. You risk annihilation. Elias looked up at her. If truth leads to annihilation, then maybe your galaxy needs to start over. The speaker slammed his staff down again. Enough. Humans will be exiled. Their worlds quarantined. Their fleets destroyed. Before he could finish, a second hologram appeared, an unexpected one. It was the face of a being the Council hadn't seen in over 2,000 years. The Arbiter of Valus, one of the original founders of the Council, presumed long dead. His ancient form shimmered in pale gold light. Silence. The Arbiter's voice commanded. Every representative froze. The speaker trembled. You cannot be. I am, the Arbiter said, and I have watched long enough. Humanity speaks the truth. Shock rippled through the hall. The Arbiter turned his gaze toward Elias. You have done what none of us dared, hold the Council accountable. For that I thank you, the speaker stammered. You side with them? They are reckless. Dangerous, perhaps, the Arbiter replied, but necessary. We grew complacent. Their defiance is our mirror. They are not a threat, they are a warning. Elias bowed slightly. We don't want your throne. We want change. The Arbiter nodded. Then you shall have it. From this moment, the Council will undergo reformation. Human representatives will join the High Circle as equals. The speaker's voice rose in fury. You can't do this. The Arbiter's light flared brighter. I can and I will. The age of silent oppression ends here. The speaker's body convulsed, energy surging through him as his seat disintegrated in a flash of light. When it faded, he was gone. No one spoke. The Council chamber was deathly still. The Arbiter turned to the humans. The galaxy will not trust you easily, but history will remember that you stood when no one else would. Elias gave a small, tired smile. That's all we ever wanted, to be heard. The Arbiter's image flickered and faded, leaving behind only silence and the soft hum of the chamber's systems. Around Elias, alien representatives looked at one another with expressions of awe and uncertainty. For the first time in thousands of years, the council felt fragile and free. Elias looked up at the massive dome overhead, where the galaxy rotated in shimmering light. We never wanted to rule, he said softly. We just wanted to remind everyone that truth still matters. Outside the chamber, through the transparent walls, Earth's fleet could be seen in the distance, holding position. They hadn't fired a single shot. They didn't need to. The message had already spread to every corner of the galaxy. Humans had stood before the oldest powers in existence, and they hadn't bowed. As Elias left the chamber, the delegates whispered to each other in hundreds of languages, but the meaning was the same. The age of unquestioned rule was over, and across the stars, in the silent void between worlds, the symbol of Earth glowed brighter than ever. The chamber of the Galactic Council pulsed with tension. Hundreds of alien representatives leaned forward in silence as the final human envoy entered. The great hall was vast, built from crystalline stone and surrounded by rings of light that glowed with every shift in emotion from the gathered species. Above them floated the holographic map of the galaxy, its countless stars connected by threads of law, trade, and ancient treaties. And at the heart of it all, humanity now stood, not as supplicants but as equals. Ambassador Mara Holt stepped into the central platform. Her black uniform carried no weapon, only the insignia of Earth, an image of a blue sphere surrounded by silver stars. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp, the kind of gaze that saw far beyond words. The Grand Moderator, a massive being with scales of bronze and molten eyes, lowered its head. Human of soul, it rumbled, your people have defied the balance of the galaxy. You exposed the Council's corruption. You dismantled systems that have stood for 10 millennia, and now the galaxy trembles. What is your purpose here? Mara's voice was steady. To ensure it doesn't burn. Murmurs rippled across the hall. The moderator's eyes narrowed.
You presume to lecture us on order?
No, she said. I came to offer a choice. She turned, and behind her a hologram appeared. It showed the scattered sectors of the galaxy, colonies at war, trade routes collapsing, and abandoned worlds left in chaos after the Council's fall. The image shifted to Earth, surrounded by a growing fleet of human ships working to bring aid to the collapsing systems. You called us reckless, Mara continued. But while you argued, we rebuilt what you abandoned. The room grew silent again. From the far rows, a slender being of blue light spoke. You call that rebuilding? You move your fleets like conquerors. You install governments that swear loyalty to you. Mara's expression didn't change. We install governments that swear loyalty to their people, something the Council never allowed. The moderator struck the floor with his claw. Enough, you sow rebellion and disguise it as salvation. You humans are too dangerous to lead. Mara looked up at the massive being and spoke softly. We don't want to lead. We want to remind you that leadership means service, not control. The words hung in the air. Then from the shadows of the upper levels, another voice spoke, calm and ancient. It was the Arbiter of Valus, the same being who had once declared humanity's right to stand among them. His golden form shimmered like the sun breaking through storm clouds. The human speaks truth, he said, but the question remains, can they hold the balance without becoming what they fought against? Every eye turned to Mara. The challenge was clear. Humanity had shaken the old order, but the galaxy was fragile. The new path was uncertain. Mara stepped closer to the center of the platform. Balance isn't something you hold, she said quietly. It's something you live. We don't want your throne. We want to build something that lasts. The hologram changed again. This time it showed new colonies, mixed cities where humans and aliens worked side by side, ships built with shared technology, and council stations transformed into centers of cooperation instead of control. You think humanity wants power, she said, but what we want is progress. The Arbiter watched her for a long moment. And what if the galaxy resists? Mara's answer was simple. Then we'll keep trying. We've survived extinction, exile, and silence. We can survive their fear. Before anyone could respond, a blaring alarm echoed through the chamber. Red lights flashed. The holographic map above them began to distort, sectors vanishing from view. "Report," the moderator shouted. A technician from the side council spoke in a trembling voice. "Energy surge detected in Sector 19. Origin unknown. Entire systems are disappearing." Gasps filled the room. The Arbiter's eyes dimmed. "It's happening again." Mara's heart sank. "What do you mean, again?" The Arbiter turned toward her. 500 years ago, when your Earth vanished from the galaxy, the same energy signature was recorded. We thought it was destroyed, but now it's spreading." The chamber erupted in panic. Dozens of species shouted at once. Mara raised her hand.
Silence!
The human fleet commander's hologram appeared beside her. "Ambassador, our sensors confirm it. The rift is expanding, consuming space itself. If it keeps growing, it'll reach the core worlds within a week." The moderator roared. "Then stop it." Mara's face was pale. "You don't understand. That energy came from Earth. Whatever took our planet 5 centuries ago, it's back." The Arbiter's golden light dimmed even further. "If the anomaly is tied to your world, then it may have followed you home." Mara clenched her fists. "Then we end this together." The moderator turned toward her sharply. "You caused this. You brought the corruption back." "No," Mara said. "You ignored it." The chamber shook as the hologram of the rift expanded. The map showed entire star systems blinking out like dying embers. Mara activated a risk control, projecting an image of the human fleet mobilizing. "Our scientists have been studying the phenomenon since Earth reappeared. It's not just energy, it's memory. The universe is rewriting itself. The disappearance of Earth fractured the laws of time." The Arbiter looked at her, realization dawning. The planet was never gone, it was displaced. "Exactly," Mara said. "And now the displacement is spreading. If we can't contain it, the entire galaxy will collapse into itself." The moderator snarled. "Then you have doomed us all." Mara's voice rose, steady and powerful. "No, we can save it, but we need everyone. Every fleet, every world. Humanity can't do this alone." The chamber was silent again. Then slowly the Arbiter spoke. "You asked for unity after centuries of division. Why should they trust you?" Mara looked around the hall. "Because you've seen what happens when you don't." For a long moment no one moved. Then the crystalline delegate from the earlier trials stood. "I will send my fleets," another followed. "So will we." One by one, the alien representatives rose from their seats. The sound of their agreement filled the chamber like thunder. The Arbiter's golden light brightened. "Then so be it. The galaxy stands together." Outside, the stars themselves seemed to tremble as the combined fleets gathered. Thousands of ships from every known species formed a single armada, led by humanity's vessels at the front. Their engines glowed against the void like sparks of hope. Mara stood aboard the human flagship, staring at the growing rift through the viewport. It looked like a wound in reality, pulsing and alive. She turned to her communications officer. "Send the signal. All ships are to form the containment ring." The officer nodded. "All systems online." The fleets aligned in perfect synchronization. Energy waves spread through the ships as the containment field powered up. The rift roared, sending waves of distortion that tore at space itself. "Hold it steady," Mara ordered. The Arbiter's voice came through the comms. "You risk everything for this." Mara's reply was soft. "We already did when we came back." The rift expanded one last time, then began to shrink, the containment energy folding it inward. The chamber of the council watched through their holographic feeds as the impossible happened. The galaxy stabilizing, light returning where darkness had swallowed it. When the final pulse faded, silence filled every ship. The rift was gone. Mara took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. "Status report. Containment successful," the officer said quietly. "But the readings show changes. Yes, space itself has shifted. Earth's position, it's moved again." Mara's eyes widened. "Where?" The officer looked up. "Everywhere." On the holographic map, Earth's energy signature appeared in dozens of locations at once, across galaxies, across realities. Humanity's homeworld had become a beacon, no longer tied to one point in space. The Arbiter's voice came through again, full of wonder. "Your world has become a bridge, a link between every star that ever was." Mara stared at the glowing spheres. "Then maybe this is what was meant to happen," the moderator's deep voice rumbled. You have changed the nature of the universe itself, Mara smiled faintly. No, we just reminded it to evolve. The fleets began to disperse, their engines lighting the void. The council chamber, now filled with both fear and hope, recorded every word. For the first time in known history, the galaxy wasn't ruled by fear, but by the will to survive together. And as Earth's light spread across the stars, one truth became undeniable. Humanity hadn't just returned, it had changed everything forever.